Welcome to the CEO Story, brought to you by KC Chauhan, founder of Together CFO, where every week we're interviewing the top CEOs in various industries, sharing their journey and extracting the top things that made them successful.
We're in a high rise, so we're quite secure, but generally speaking, it was a bit crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely sounds it.
I think we're good. Okay. Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CEO podcast. We've got a fantastic CEO as a guest today. We've got Adam Brown of Protempo. Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Can you just start by telling us a little bit about Protempo, and then after that, we'll dig into your background?
Yeah, sure thing. So Protempo is a multinational distributor of consumer electronics. We do everything from distribution to reverse logistics and refurbishing, B2C sales, and we also do our own manufacturing, and then we also do a lot of software forensic type seller tracking.
Fantastic. It sounds like you guys have a lot going on there.
Yeah, no, certainly enough to keep us pretty busy.
Yeah, and we'll dig back into that in a minute, but obviously I do not detect a Southern Californian accent there. Where are you originally from?
So I'm from New Zealand originally. So the company started in New Zealand, and then over the past 16 years, we've now operating in 5 different countries.
That's fantastic. I've got some great stories of friends that moved out to Australia and New Zealand and absolutely loved it. It's so beautiful out there.
Yeah, no, look, a great place to definitely to go and live a slightly slower pace of life, but a hard place to build a big business.
And very tech forward. I often get calls from a lot of companies that have bases in New Zealand, and it initially surprised me at how kind of advanced it is in progressive technology compared to some other countries.
Absolutely, especially in the finance side. But actually, one of the investors in our company was the founder of one of the largest payments processing companies in New Zealand. And one of the things that I remember him telling me quite clearly, probably 10 or 11 years ago, was that New Zealand, because it's a small, isolated economy, it's actually quite a good testing ground for a lot of new financial technology, and they can kind of run some isolated experiments in that region of the world. So you actually will find, when I travel the world, I've often noticed that, the rest of the world is backward in certain things, but I guess until that point, I didn't really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's, I felt the same way when I moved here from England. There's certain things, small things, but, like checks, for example, are widely used here in the States, which is just not like that in the rest of the world. And another small one was, credit card machines. They come bring it to you. It's wireless, and you never really lose sight of your credit card. So you've got that security factor, but not here. They take it from you, swipe it, bring it back. So it was just small things. I thought, the technology already exists. I don't know why it hasn't really been adopted here.
Yeah.
But, okay, anyway, enough about that. Let's get into your story. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you started the company, what you were going through, and kind of, I know this is 15 plus years ago, so we're taking it back, but how did it transition from an idea in your head into a multi-global company, and then with you obviously moving out to Irvine as well?
It was kind of by happenstance, really. My dad was working for a computer company in New Zealand at the time that had gone into liquidation. I was at university and I was doing computer science and commerce, and my dad actually asked me, just for the timing, if I wanted a summer holiday job from university or college. So I was like, hey, sure. So he's right. Okay, well, the company's got a customer list, and they want someone to build a little web page to help sell down some of the inventory as they wind the business down. So I thought, okay, great. So my skills weren't particularly good at the time for coding. So we kind of ended up creating a daily deal site that wasn't really a daily deal site. It was just that we were uploading an HTML page once a day, changing the product. because didn't have the skill set to actually build a proper e-commerce catalog site in those days.
Well, it's a big undertaking now, let alone back in those days when you didn't have any of the drag and drop type websites.
No, there's no Shopify or anything like that back in those days. So yeah, effectively that's kind of what we did leading into the Christmas period in 2004. And we just called it 12 Days of Christmas and ran it for 12 days, and it was quite successful. And then I kind of said to my dad, hey, I think this could be a good business ongoing. And so he loaned me some cash from the bank of mum and dad, and I spoke with the liquidators, and my dad was very hands-on with me for the first few years as well, and it really helped me kind of get it going. And that's basically what we did. We sort of retooled and became a daily deal site in New Zealand, and ran that. We actually ran that until 2012, and we ended up selling that. But we ran that for a while. My dad kind of stopped and got onto his own things in 2006. And and it was probably around that time I got some external investment into the company, and decided, well, hey, New Zealand's a very small market, small economy. It's hard to find good excess inventory deals where you can show like a compelling saving. And so I started coming to the US at that point to start buying product. And I guess a lot of the brands weren't doing globalizing their pricing to the same extent back then like they do today. So there were like some significant discrepancies between the local market price and the retail price in the US. So then when you were buying excess inventory and getting a cheaper price, we were really showing like some really compelling kind of savings. And so that really helped to start growing our business. And then we started selling also to other daily deal sites in Australia, because I'd kind of found some pretty good avenues of supply. And so we started doing that. And then randomly enough, I was playing soccer on Saturdays at the time.
You can call it football. I'm English as well.
Yeah. So I was playing football, and a buyer from one of the major retailers in New Zealand happened to be in my football team, and so started getting us to import Apple products for them. So we started bringing in the first generation iPad and some iPods and things like that back in the day. And then that was really where we started to get some serious scale as far as the purchasing went. And at that point, we started really to become more of a sourcing and distribution company than a direct retailer, because we couldn't get the volume through our own site that we could get through selling to some of the retailers. And then we had basically the equivalent of Groupon in New Zealand came to us and said, hey, we want you guys to run our product division. And so, we ended up running that, and that was pretty successful for us for a few years. So we really basically started to dial back our own direct retail stuff and really just become a fulfillment center for retailers and other guys using our sourcing networks in the US. And over time, it really just helped that we started to get direct with the brands, because we were actually able to genuinely take the product out of the channel and not mess up the local markets. And that was a big benefit to a lot of the brands, really, that they knew that it was going to leave the US market and the New Zealand, and to a lesser extent the Australian markets at that point. The impact on the market of getting rid of some goods was a lot lower than it would be here in the US. So we had a genuine kind of competitive advantage at that point over a lot of the other kind of incumbent, I guess, liquidation type outlets.
So Adam, I'm hearing a lot of building relationships and key relationships as well, pretty much, where if it's not one of the biggest retailers, it's a friend of a friend that kind of knows someone.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you did to actually get into those networks or be able to really turn a friendship into a business relationship?
That's a good question. I don't think there's any kind of particular strategy. I think it was more really just a kind of case-by-case basis. But one of the things I probably would say is, like, we have a saying internally in the company here, which, people kind of roll their eyes sometimes when I say it, because I keep saying it, but it's that doing good business does good business. And New Zealand is a small country. You've got 4.5 million people. If you don't do good business, word gets around very quickly, and it gets really difficult to actually operate because it's such a small market.
Doing good business does good business.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we, I guess, brought that approach to the US, and it was very hard in the early days. A lot of door knocking to finally get someone to kind of take a chance on you. But one of the things that we always kind of do is, we do what we say we're going to do, and if we can't do it, we just say we can't do it. But I think some of the traditional kind of liquidator type guys will do anything they can to get the deal, and kind of work out the semantics later. And we've lost deals because we've sort of said, hey guys, sorry, we can't do this the way that you need it done. But they're also the guys that will come back to you next time, because at least they know what they're getting themselves in for. And I guess on the relationship side, one of the really pleasing things for us is two of our larger suppliers and contracts now with Apple and Google, and both of those relationships came about from guys who I did business with at smaller companies that have moved to those businesses. And I guess they knew that we would do a good job for them and do what we say we're going to do, and that's just led to more business down the line. So again, just goes back to that doing good business does good business.
Yeah, it's building that reputation, is making sure that you don't overpromise and underdeliver, and that you stay true to your word, pretty much, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as you get a little bit older and a little bit more mature, it gets easier to do that because you don't, when you're a bit younger and more aggressive, you don't want to lose a deal, but kind of learned over the long term. That's certainly one of the things that's enabled us to be successful.
Yeah, there's a good book that I read that kind of emphasizes that. It's called Fast is Slow.
Yep.
It's like to really go fast in the long term, you've got to go slow in the short term.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's pretty counterintuitive to what most people actually think, but I think setting those foundations strong enables you to build a really big house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's kind of focus in on the international move. I've done it myself. I know the pain that I went through and how that looked for me. I was with a huge Fortune 500 company, so it was a lot more comfortable than most people.
Yeah.
But how was it for you, and what was kind of the final decision that made you, one, pick Southern California, one of the most expensive parts of America, and two, just to move from New Zealand to America, whereas you've had business in several other countries also?
So I guess the attraction to America was largely because a lot of the global kind of brand head offices are based in the US, and you can actually affect global business from one location, right? So, and that we did a lot of work with Jawbone, I guess, before they folded back in 2015 or 2016, and we developed that into a global business, but purely by dealing only through the US office, and that was kind of when it became really obvious to me that that's what we needed to do. We were also working very closely with another company at the time who was here in Southern California, and we were running a lot of Microsoft business together. And we were, I guess, the outsourced kind of global sales arm. And we even looked at merging at one point. We worked pretty closely together. And the Microsoft kind of product kind of, I guess, dried up. I think Synex ended up getting the overall kind of major contract, and so we didn't kind of work together much after that, but at the same time kind of made me realize that being here was a huge advantage, and you got taken a lot more seriously if you had a physical location here in the US. And for me, it was a little bit of I had to put the cart before the horse a little bit to actually get a work visa here. I had to then register the US company, get it set up with employees and everything, even though I was still based in New Zealand, and then use that as the basis to actually get my work permit to come over here. So all in all, it probably took about 2 years to get that done. Definitely wasn't an easy process, but was a worthwhile, and especially we were creating jobs and all that kind of stuff. I did think it would be a little bit easier. I think they would have tried to encourage people creating jobs a little bit more, but
it's
wasn't
definitely one of the hardest places to come work internationally.
Yeah.
And especially from your side, you're creating a new company, building that up. So you would assume, hey, I'm helping the economy here. I'm hiring local people. It should be a lot smoother, but it's tough. I've heard stories of people taking 5-6+ years to do what you've just done. mine was pretty tough, and I was transferring with a Fortune 500 company that had operations in 55 countries, 15,000 plus employees, and still wasn't straightforward, the amount of interviews and hurdles and steps I had to run through.
Yeah.
Definitely look back at that and thankful to get the opportunity, but it was tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the main reason we chose Southern California, there was two reasons. One, the city of Irvine actually had some pretty good tax incentives for multinational companies. There's also a program called California Competes, which is like a tax subsidy. So we utilize those. We did talk to some other locations like North Carolina and South Carolina and a couple of other areas where we kind of looked at where it was more tax efficient to set up. But Southern California made the most sense. Also, lifestyle here is great, and we're a single flight from any of the other global offices. So for the international travel and all that kind of stuff, it was much easier for us to do that. And and really just lifestyle also played a large part. You've got great access to the port. You've got lots of warehousing and land that you can utilise that's cost effective, and then still have your sort of corporate base in Irvine. So that was the main reason we ended up choosing this area.
Fantastic. And then let's talk a little bit about building the business in the US and the differences and the challenges you found here compared to initially starting up in New Zealand.
There's a lot more bureaucracy in the US for setup and things. Definitely things take a lot longer to happen. I think New Zealand is, you can register a company and literally have it trading within 24 hours, as long as you've got the right forms of ID and a credit card. So
same in England.
Yeah, very simple. Obviously, takes a lot longer for that stuff to happen here. And I guess with me being the principal of the US company and not being a US citizen and things, there was a whole bunch of extra hoops that you have to jump through to get all that stuff done. But I think once you do get entrenched in the market here, it certainly becomes a lot easier. It's a lot easier to win business and do business with US companies when you are a US registered entity. You're based here. You've got physical infrastructure here. I think it just gives that extra level of trust. When you're a guy from New Zealand, making cold calling people, trying to get business, I think they're certainly a lot more skeptical than they are here. And I think really getting our physical infrastructure dialed in. Once we moved in the last few years, we moved to a pretty large distribution facility inland from here in San Bernardino, which is 140,000 square feet. And once you actually, get people to come and do a site visit, or you can show them, video or photos of the actual facility in operation, I think, that really, gave us a lot of credibility, and also just being established in the US and actually being able to, get credit through, get insured through guys like Euler and Dun & Bradstreet and all that kind of stuff. I think that, that really helps with people wanting to deal with you once they know that, you're actually a legitimate entity and, not some sort of faceless person halfway across the world cold calling them.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good thing once you can prove that and have that ability. But how did you then initially continue to grow? Because you're at a great scale now, but initially, once moving to Irvine, setting up the base there, and then now having a huge factory as well in San Bernardino, what were kind of the main drivers that grew acceleration when you actually got set up after those 2 years of the foundation building?
Yeah, it's kind of all really just been in a response to customer needs, really. We really have built out almost all of our services and everything because we've had a customer who's had a need to do something, and we've sort of just said, hey, we can do that for you. If we know that the runway, as far as the longevity of the business line is there, then we'll build the infrastructure around it. And that's kind of ultimately how we've actually ended up doing every part of the business that we do as being directly related to a customer requirement or a customer need. And then we've built the infrastructure around them, and that's really where a lot of the growth has come from. And once you've set it up, obviously, then it becomes easy to go to other companies and say, well, hey, we're already doing this for XYZ company. Why don't you use us to do this as well? And The consolidation of a bunch of services under one roof and one umbrella, has also really helped us because we can drive a lot more cost efficiency. We do reverse logistics and refurbishing and returns. We do retail distribution. We do B2C sales for companies. And when you're actually doing the distribution into retail for somebody and then telling them, well, hey, actually any returns you get from Best Buy, we can take those back and then we can refurbish them and then we can resell them directly to a customer over here and support the warranty for them. And you can do that all under one roof, so you're not having to ship things around the country and pay all these different touch costs of 3PLs and all that good stuff. Then you can actually put a pretty compelling case forward to really bring the overall cost down for companies and just take care of a lot of stuff that's not necessarily their core functionality, so they can just focus on their normal business.
Correct. No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think as you grow functionalities, it all works together because you've already got a very low cost base, and you can keep expanding and adding new channels and bringing in more clients and adding more value to more clients. So it kind of sounds like it extrapolates quite quickly at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, and you get that momentum, and it's kind of easy to keep it going once you've actually got it. It's the analogy of a propeller turning in the first few turns to actually give it some momentum are pretty tough, but once it's going, doesn't need a lot to kind of keep it running.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then let's talk a little bit about how the organization now runs when the core of it, moved from New Zealand to America. How, I'm assuming you still have some staff there, and how did that kind of affect them with the leadership moving internationally?
I guess that has had its a few challenges in that respect, but we still actually run most of our finance and admin out of the New Zealand office. It's still technically our head office from a global perspective. Although over the next few years, I kind of envision that all moving here to the US. Now all our software development, everything still happens out of New Zealand, and there's, as you mentioned earlier, it's quite forward thinking in the tech space, and just being honest, dollar for dollar, you can get the same job done a lot cheaper in New Zealand than you can here, especially looking at the current exchange rates and everything. You can pay somebody a similar salary in New Zealand dollars that you would pay them in US dollars here. So, you're instantly, 30 to 40%, lower cost for the same job. We certainly keep a lot of those jobs, back in New Zealand, and it makes sense. We still have one of the major shareholders in the company runs the New Zealand office for us. There's still a strong leadership presence there. That's kind of made the most sense for us to do it that way.
That makes a lot of sense. And then which other countries are you currently operating in terms of having offices in?
So we've got an office in Amsterdam, one in Toronto, and obviously New Zealand and the US. Then we have one in Sydney in Australia as well.
Fantastic. It sounds like you guys are doing great. So let's wrap up by saying, how can people reach out to you or the company if they'd want to find out more information?
I think the best thing to do would be to go to our website, which is protempo.com. And that has a pretty good rundown. We actually just revamped it last week, so content is pretty fresh and accurate. So I'd say that's the best place for somebody to go and have a look at us.
Great. And for you guys watching on video, the link will put it down in the notes so they can get straight over to you. With that, I'd like to thank you, Adam, for taking the time to join us and share those golden nuggets. You've had a fantastic journey from New Zealand to America and beyond. I think the future is very bright for you guys by the sound of it.
Yeah, no, thank you. We're excited about what the future holds, and basically keep on doing good business.
Fantastic. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
No worries, thanks.